Hello and welcome to another Oxygen XML live event. My name is Alin Belu and I will be your host for today's webinar, Interactive Tutorials in Oxygen. Let's not waste time, so let me tell you what can you expect to see in the following hour. As you surely know by now, a traditional tutorial implies a set of written instructions that the users must follow. Well, Oxygen takes the concept one step further. With our live tutorials add-on, the tutorial is embedded within the application itself. The samples for each step are opened automatically, hence are available on request, and the application detects when a mission is complete. In this case, a mission consists of the initial file content that is opened in the application and the set of steps for guidance. But more on this will be presented by my colleague Sorin Cărbunaru, Senior Software Developer at Synchrosoft. And he will explore in detail the live tutorials add-on by covering the following topics from which you will benefit greatly. The built-in DITA interactive tutorials and how to create new tutorials and journeys. As usual, let me tell you some information that you need to know about our live webinars. As always, all of our webinars are being recorded, so be assured that this one makes no exception. After the webinar comes to an end, the recording will be made available on the event page on our site, oxygenxml.com, along with Sorin's presentation slides. And also the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel titled Oxygen XML that some of you might be accustomed to by now. Another important aspect that we care about is that as we go along, we encourage you to ask us questions by using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface, where our colleagues Radu Coravu and Gabriel Nedianu will assist us by answering to all of your questions in real time. And of course, we will be addressing those questions again at the end in the Q&A session, along with the latest entries from you for the benefit of everyone joining us today. So with all of this being said, let me welcome Sorin Cărbunaru. Hi, Sorin.
Hello, Alin. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this tutorial about tutorials. So in the beginning, I'm going to tell you a few words about tutorials in general, then another few words about interactive tutorials in particular. I'm going to show you the live tutorials add-on and the default tutorials that come with the add-on. And afterwards, I'm going to show how you can customize the default tutorials and how you can create new tutorials. So I guess all of us agree that there is nothing like reading a very good book. Sadly, on the flip side, there is nothing like having to read through bad documentation. And sometimes even good documentation. You know, sometimes we simply want to get things done. We simply want to find out how to perform certain tasks without having to spend tens of minutes or maybe hours on websites or reading documentation, reading books, and so on. What we really need in that moment is the help of a tutorial. And perhaps most of us, if not all of us, have followed some kind of a tutorial in our lifetime at least once, from how to change a headlight bulb to, I don't know, maybe how to build a space rocket. We pretty much all of us have read and followed some kind of a tutorial, and we love the benefit of finding out how to solve our problems. Now, there are several types of tutorials. And I will mention, among others, text-based tutorials, text and images, and there are video tutorials. There are also webinars, such like this one, and of course, interactive tutorials. And speaking of interactive tutorials, I want to mention a few benefits. One of the main benefits of using interactive tutorials is that of hands-on learning. You learn as you do. And this benefit may also lead to improved motivation, because it's one thing to know that you will actually do something and learn by doing it, and it's another thing to know that you will have to read things about a certain topic, and you may be more motivated to actually try to perform the task with the help of a tutorial. And a second sub-benefit of hands-on learning is that of enhanced retention. We all learn faster by doing than by simply reading or listening to something. Another benefit is that of not having to switch contexts. So everything is integrated in the application, in our case in Oxygen, and you don't have to go to the web browser and maybe to a book and then come back to the tool and so on. Everything is inside the tool, integrated with the tool. Then we have the potential benefit of increased engagement, especially if the interactive tutorials include elements of gamification, such as rewards and challenges. And we have some other benefits such as immediate feedback, real-time progress tracking, the convenience and flexibility of being able to follow the tutorials whenever you want, and perhaps even wherever you are. Some tools, such as Oxygen, don't need internet access for following the tutorials. And there may also be the benefit of saving some money. For example, if you don't need to hire someone to teach your team some things, or perhaps you can hire that specific person, but for a shorter period of time. So it depends from case to case, but possible cost reductions may be another benefit of using interactive tutorials. And today I'm going to show you how you can create your own interactive tutorials for Oxygen. And that's why I want to present several best practices. First of all, we should write our tutorials in a clear manner and with concise instructions. If we have bigger tasks, more complex tasks, then we need to break them into smaller steps. When we build our tutorials, we should try to build on already acquired experience, going from very easy, very small tasks to something more complex. But again, complex, yes, but broken down into smaller steps. Another best practice is to use real life examples. It's more helpful for the learners to get used to the real life situations. We should also provide some helpful hints for when the learners get stuck, and provide links to additional resources such as articles and the documentation of a product and so on for when the learners need them. And of course, we should always improve our tutorials and always keep them up to date. Okay, so that being said, it's time to switch to Oxygen. So first of all, if you don't have the live tutorials add-on installed, then you can go to the help menu, install new add-ons, select the default update site, and then you can use this filter to type the name of the tutorial. I don't get it here in the table because I already have it installed. Once you install the tutorial, you will see this tutorials side view here on the right hand side. On the first level, we have the list of tutorials, and each tutorial can have one or more missions. And at the bottom of the side view, we have a link to the documentation of the live tutorials add-on, but I really hope that after watching my webinar, you won't need to go there anymore. I hope to make things very clear. Okay, so if you want to start a mission, you can simply double click on that mission, as I did now, and then the side view changes. It presents the goal, the title of the mission, and then the specific steps that you need to take in order to accomplish the mission. In the main editing area, Oxygen opens the initial content, the file with the initial content, and for each change that you make in the file, Oxygen will perform a check to see if you have accomplished the mission. If you need help, you can find hints by pressing this question mark button here, and this will expand the hints area at the bottom of the side view. First of all, here we get compare with expected result link. If we click on it, Oxygen will open the diff tool, and here we can see the differences between our content and the expected content. Of course, it's more helpful if you switch to full tags, and then you can see that you miss, in your content, you miss the bold element in DITA. And of course, we have some specific hints, such as using the bold action from the floating toolbar, or using the content completion assistant. And we also have links to the DITA documentation, which will take you to our website, where you can read more about the elements that you need to insert into your content to accomplish the mission, for example. So now let's follow the steps. We need to select the text vary and then invoke the bold action from the toolbar. And as I said, for each change, Oxygen checks if we have accomplished the mission, and yes, we have indeed finished our mission. Once you finish a mission, the hints button from here becomes next mission button, start next mission. And again, the initial file will be opened. We have our steps, and we can continue trying to accomplish the current mission. If you want to go back to the roadmap, to the list of tutorials, you can use this button from here. You can also reset the progress of a mission or of a tutorial if you want to do that. Until now, we have seen how a mission opens the initial file, but for more complex scenarios, you may also want to open a project in Oxygen. For example, if you want to use some side views that load resources from the project. You can also do that, and we have some default missions that do that. Here in the data reusing components tutorial, we have, for example, the first mission, define a key for a product, name and use it. And if we start this mission, I don't know if you noticed, but here in the project view, Oxygen opened a specific project and then opened a file from that project. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how you can do that, how you can specify a project to be opened in the project view. Our default tutorials are for DITA. And I thought about two scenarios. Perhaps, so the first one, perhaps you want to use the DITA tutorials, but you want to customize them. And the second scenario will be to create some tutorials for another vocabulary, let's say for Markdown. So first of all, let's say you want to customize the default tutorials. The first step would be to create a new project, because I imagine you want to share these tutorials with your colleagues. And we can do that by creating a project that can be shared with the colleagues. So I'm going to create this project. Let's say it is a project for newcomers to your team, and let's call it onboarding. So this is the folder, and now the project name, the project file name, also onboarding. Okay, now we want to find out from where we can copy the default tutorials. For doing that, we need to go here to the options menu, preferences, and here in the plugins preferences page, we need to select live tutorials, and here you can find the location where the add-on is installed. Let's copy this, so Control C. Now let me open a file explorer, go to that location, and here we have a tutorials folder. If we go inside it, we can find all the tutorials. And now let's copy them from here. Copy, and come back to Oxygen and paste them. Okay, and now we can do whatever we want with them. We can delete some of them. We can edit the missions, add more missions, remove some missions, maybe alter the missions in some ways. Perhaps you don't want to use bold in your technical documentation. You want to use more semantic elements and so on. And you can do that by opening the tutorial file. And here you have all the missions with the titles and each step you have to take. But we'll come back to this a little bit later when we will create our Markdown tutorials from scratch. Now, what we want to do is to stop loading the default tutorials and instead load the tutorials from the project. Oxygen automatically knows how to load the tutorials from the current project. And for deactivating the loading of the default tutorials, we need to go here to the live tutorials preferences page, which is under plugins, and disable the load default tutorials action. We could provide a location here for the additional tutorials, but we don't need to because we have the tutorials inside our current project. We also want to save the options at the project level so that whenever we load this project, the default tutorials will not be loaded, but instead our customized tutorials. And when we switch to another project, perhaps, let's say we want to get the default tutorials back. One more thing that I want to show you while we are still here in the preferences page, what you can do if you want to make sure that, actually, if you want to make the task of the learner more, you want to make it easier, you can set this automatically install add-ons option. You can make it to install the live tutorials add-on when someone loads the project. And if you want to do that, you can simply press Control Space here, and we are looking for this ID from here, which corresponds to the live tutorials add-on. We double click on it, and then we apply the options. And again, we want to do this only for our current project. So we need to save this at the project level so that whenever someone loads the project, if they don't have the add-on installed, Oxygen will provide a dialog box from where they can install the add-on. Okay. So this is how you can customize the tutorials. Now, a second scenario is to create tutorials from scratch. Let me delete these tutorials from here because I want to create new folders for our new tutorials. So I said that we're going to create some tutorials for Markdown. I want to create a tutorial for Markdown styling and another one for Markdown links. How you can create links in Markdown. Now we need to create a tutorial file in each of these folders. When you install the Live Tutorials add-on, this add-on contributes a new file template for tutorial files. So now if I right-click here and say New File, and use the filter from here, I can search for tutorial. And I have this file template. And for Oxygen to be able to detect the tutorial file, we need to set a specific name. And that name is tutorial.xml. And Oxygen knows how to go through the project structure, through all the folders and subfolders, and look for tutorial files. And we do the same thing for the second tutorial. Again, select the tutorial template and, select the tutorial template and here provide the tutorial.xml name. You can edit the tutorial files in the text page, or if you prefer, you can use the author page, which is more user-friendly. And we need to provide the title of each tutorial. The tutorials are sorted alphabetically in the tutorials side view. So that's why I'm going to use a trick, and for the tutorial styling to be the first one, I'm going to write something like this, markdown styling. Then the goal of this tutorial is to learn how to use markdown styling. And now each tutorial, as I mentioned earlier, has at least one mission. And of course, it can have several missions. So the first mission will be to learn how to create bold content. So let's say bold ID. The title of the mission will be bold styling in Markdown. And here you need to provide a description that is the specific steps that the learner needs to take in order to accomplish the mission. And here you can use some HTML tags. For example, I want to create an ordered list with 2 list items, 2 steps. I'm going to create the skeleton first, like this. And now we need to provide the steps. So for example, select text, and then use the toolbar action for bold, or use the bold toolbar action. Here we can provide the path for the project that we want to open in the project view if necessary. But my missions will be simple missions. That's why I don't need a project. But if you need, here is the place where you can provide the file, the folder path for the project. And now we need to create the file containing the initial content and then the file containing the expected content. So let's do that. Here, let's create a markdown file. So this will be bold initial. And then we need to create another file. Bold expected. Okay, so this will be the initial content, and the expected content we need to bold the text from here. And now we can provide these files here. So the initial file and the expected file. If you create tutorials for XML-based vocabularies or maybe for HTML, then you can use this ignore XPath input field from here to specify some elements, or perhaps more probably some attributes that you want to ignore. For example, we use this ignore XPath for the DITA tutorials in order to ignore the attributes of the newly created elements. That's because we automatically generate values for the attributes, and the values will not be the same as the ones in the expected content. So we say that we want to exclude the ID attributes, and then we don't care what values Oxygen generates for those IDs. The IDs will be excluded from the comparison between the initial content, or actually the current content, and the expected content. And now we can provide one or more hints. For example, you can also use, let's say, the content completion window or the content completion assistant. We can add another hint if we want, but one will suffice for now. And then we can also add a second mission. We can, for example, press this plus button and it will create a new mission. But for the sake of being quick, I will simply copy this mission from here. And let's go back here to the author page, and instead of bold, write italic. So we will have two missions in our tutorial. Of course, we need to create some new files here. So italic initial and italic expected. Here we need to create some italic content, and now we can provide the file paths: italic initial and italic expected. And we can also delete the hint just for the sake of doing it, and for showing you that hints are not mandatory, but as I mentioned in the best practices slide, they can be really helpful if someone gets stuck. Okay, so we have created our first tutorial with two missions, and then we have a second tutorial here. This will be about markdown links. The goal will be to create links, or learn how to create links. And the first mission will be to create web links. The title of the mission: create a web link. Now the description, I'm going to write something fast. Use the toolbar action to create a link. And again, we need to provide the initial content and the expected content. So links initial, and really quick, links expected. And let's create a link here using the toolbar action to our website, oxygenxml.com. Okay, and now we can provide a file path here. Links initial and links expected. Again, here we can provide a hint if we want to. Again, you can use the content completion assistant. Okay, now that we have created our tutorials and our missions, we will need to restart Oxygen for it to be able to load the new tutorials. Okay, this will take only a few seconds. And after Oxygen starts, we should notice in the tutorials side view, as we can see right now, that our tutorials from the project have been indeed loaded. And now we can start a mission by double clicking, and the initial content will be opened here as it was for DITA. And now we select text and use the bold action. And again, we have accomplished our mission. So the live tutorials add-on is pretty easy to use, is very straightforward, and it should be because we want people to feel comfortable with using it, and we want them to learn how to use our application with the help of these tutorials. And now, after you complete your project, you can share it with your team. Perhaps you can load it on GitHub or somewhere, and the rest of the team can clone it from there and use it in their Oxygen to learn how they can use the tool. Okay, here I have another slide with with a couple of links to our documentation for the live tutorials add-on, and also for how you can create a new project and how you can share the project. You can read more there if you want to. But that being said, my presentation here is done. I think you found it helpful. And now we are ready to answer your questions. Okay, so Alin?
Thanks, Sardine, for another great and in-depth presentation. I hope that the audience enjoyed very much your session today. So, as you told us, let's go to the Q&A section of this webinar. The first question that came from John: is there a way to add a test or quiz to this? I would like to use this as a learning pathway.
Well, these are not actually tests. Perhaps these are tutorials, and the fact that you follow the tutorial and you accomplish the mission, that may be we might think about that as a test. So I think the fact that you finish a mission is like passing the test, right?
We have two questions, similar. Is the live tutorials add-on compatible with Oxygen XML Web Author? If not currently, do you plan to port the add-on to Oxygen XML Web Author in the future?
It's not available right now for the Web Author distribution, but we can think about this. We can add a feature request on our side and consider this for the future. But I cannot give a time frame for this. But right now it's not available.
John asked another question. Can this be put out in HTML?
I'm trying to figure out what this means.
Yeah, John, maybe you can fill in some more
Okay.
information on your
That
question.
would be helpful. Yeah, and we can come back to the question.
We have another question. What is the real use case for this? Where can I use this?
Okay, so I think one real use case would be the one that I presented, something like an onboarding project, which you create for newcomers to your team. So, for example, um, if you are a technical documentation team and you use DITA and someone comes along who may not know more advanced topics in DITA, then you can provide um, an onboarding project with tutorials about advanced techniques with DITA. And of course, by following the tutorials inside Oxygen, they will learn the DITA concepts and how they can use Oxygen to write the DITA documentation, and how they can use. So it's not only about the technologies, it's also about Oxygen. Perhaps they will not be very accustomed to Oxygen, and you can write tutorials about how they can use. Again, I'm giving an example in DITA, how they can use the DITA reusable components, something like that.
A lot of people are telling us that WebAuthor plus live tutorials would be a game changer. So yeah, maybe expect this in the future. John returned to us with some more
Mm-hmm.
information. He was referring to a web help output. So can this be put out in a web help output?
No, you cannot do that. All the tutorials are meant to be used in Oxygen to learn how to use Oxygen, the standalone version, Oxygen XML editor, the author or the developer. I'm trying to think how outputting this to web help will help. Perhaps John can tell us the use case, the specific use case, the specific goal he has in mind.
Another question comes from George. Could I use this to write a tutorial that shows writers how to create a relationship table in a data map?
Yeah, of course you can do that. Again, you need to provide the exact steps in a very clear and concise way, and you can tell them. You can also, as I showed earlier, you can provide a path to a project that will be opened in Oxygen. Then from that project, you can tell the learner to open a specific data map in the data maps manager. Then another step would be how to open a topic from the data maps manager, another step, how to invoke the action that creates a relationship table, and so on. So you can do that. You can do pretty much everything related to Oxygen. You can tell them where to go, what to click, what to do, and then you need to provide the expected content. You start from a data map without a relationship table, and in the expected content, you need to provide the final result with the relationship table, of course.
Again, some more people asking us if the live tutorials will be available in WebAuthor. Right now, it's available only in the desktop application. but we'll consider this as a future improvement.
Yeah, and thank you for asking
Um,
about this because it helps us, decide what steps to take in the future.
uh, George added some feedback. We already have the steps, but it's not interactive. I think it's related to the question that you answered. Previously, a tutorial would reinforce the steps we already have documented for creating the relationships tables. Uh,
Yes. One mention. Um, Oxygen will validate the fact that the learner has indeed followed the procedure and the procedure is correct. Um, that if the tutorial is also correct. And another thing is that we also have that uh, here in the hints area, we have this compare with the expected result. So this is again something related to interaction. You can see how close you are to accomplishing the mission, where you are right now and where you need to get.
uh, We have some interesting questions that I think I can answer to both of them. I'm new to Oxygen XML, in fact, to using an authoring tool. Since I'm new, I assume this to be a getting started session. Can you tell me where to begin from to learn this tool as a technical writer? Are there any videos on YouTube that helps beginners like me to kickstart the learning? Yes, as I've mentioned in the beginning of today's webinar, we have a channel or a YouTube channel called Oxygen XML, where you can find a lot of tutorials and introductory courses, introductory webinars, um, uh, introducing DITA. Um, Also, we have another questions regarding webinars. Could you please organize a webinar for XPath and XSLT? We actually have a recording of a webinar that we previously did, um, an introductory tutorial for XSLT using Oxygen XML on the same YouTube channel, Oxygen XML.
Mm. One more thing for the person who said that um, they are new to Oxygen XML. You can install the live tutorials add-on, and if you want to learn how you can use Oxygen with DITA, then you can follow the default tutorials and you will learn how to perform certain actions, how to use specific side views, and so on. So the live tutorials add-on is actually a good starting point if you want to learn DITA and how to use Oxygen um, for technical documentation written in DITA.
And maybe it's worth it to mention that we also have a blog, the Oxygen XML blog, where our colleagues contribute a lot of articles, mainly our own Radu Koravu, where he has a lot of introductory posts over there to DITA. So that's another place where you can find information. Can we embed GIF or GIF videos? Thanks in advance. GIF or videos.
Um, Here in the side view, I don't know, I don't think I mentioned it. Oh, actually, I did mention this. When you write the description, you can write HTML. So there in the HTML, you can add links to some images, and they should be rendered here in the description.
We have a question from Talib. My question is, what is the use of MD in DITA XML?
Um, yeah, I don't know if I really understand this, but I'm I'm going to try to answer as I understand it. So what I did here, DITA and Markdown are two separate markup languages. And what I try to do is to show you how you can use the add-on with the default tutorials, the default DITA tutorials, or maybe customize the default DITA tutorials. And then as a separate subject, how you can create tutorials for some other technologies, some other vocabularies, maybe for DocBook or for Markdown or something else. So that's why I showed the example with Markdown.
Thank you, Serene. These are all the questions that we received so far. Let me take a back control and let's go to the last section of today's presentation. I have here the page of the event because I want to remind you that the event is being recorded as we speak, and you will find the recording along with Sorin's presentation slides on the very same event page. And if you have any comments or follow-up questions regarding his presentation, you can write to us directly by using the Oxygen Feedback commenting platform found at the bottom of this very same page, or contact us by mail at support@oxygenxml.com. Regarding our upcoming events, we do not have any other webinars scheduled so far, but make sure to go to the events page on our website because we will definitely schedule more webinars in the near future. Also, you can see at what conferences will our colleagues be present, so you can meet them in real life. In closing, I want to thank you all for being able to join us today at another live webinar. I hope you had a great time and that you enjoyed this live presentation. Again, a big thank you to our today's presenter, Sorin Carbonaro. So thanks again, Sorin.
You're very welcome.
And also a big thank you to Radu and Gabriel that were behind the scenes to make sure that all of your questions were answered in real time as Sorin was presenting. As always, we have some great events ahead of us for the summer. So I hope that we will meet each other very, very soon. And until next time, stay safe and have a great day or evening. Bye bye.
Goodbye.